Now, in his first full day as Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, Germany's Friedrich Merz, is traveling to Paris to meet French President Emmanuel Macron. He'll then fly to Warsaw to see Prime Minister Donald Tusk, and this comes after a tense beginning. The Conservative leader failed Tuesday's first round of voting in Parliament, which no post-war Chancellor had ever experienced.
So wahr mir Gott helfe.
This was the moment he'd been waiting for, but the day got off to a rocky start. The Member of Parliament Friedrich Merz has not received the required majority of at least 316 votes. In accordance with Article 63, paragraph 2 of the Constitution, he has not been elected Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany. Shockwaves from Berlin felt all the way in Frankfurt, as the stock market reacted to the news and ripple effects were felt beyond Germany. When Merz's party won the election, he promised stability, increased spending, both domestically and on defence. He said the world wouldn't wait for Germany to step up. And in the second vote, 325 votes in favour, a majority, followed by a trip to see Germany's president, making Friedrich Merz, on a day that started with an unexpected defeat, Germany's 10th Chancellor since the Second World War.
DW's Chief International Editor Richard Walker is with us here in the studio. Richard, more than a dozen members of Chancellor Merz's own coalition voted against him in Parliament yesterday when he was to be confirmed as Chancellor. It took a second vote to get him through. What does that tell us about the stability of this German government and its leader?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a shaky start, to say the least. I mean, we were here, right, 24 hours ago, Terry, and there was really a huge amount of surprise, you know, in Parliament and around Germany that this had happened. This has never happened since the Second World War in post-war Germany. And I think it has raised a question, and Friedrich Merz was out doing interviews last night with German domestic television, kind of acknowledging, you know, this wasn't a great start. And it does raise questions about whether he can do what he's been kind of promising to do. I mean, his pitch in the election campaign was that after a period of a government that was riven by infighting, that kind of blew up just before the end of last year, giving this sense to the rest of Europe and the world that Germany was not really politically stable anymore, that he was a kind of strong leader who would come in, pull Germany up, and get Germany back on track was one of the expressions that he used after the election. Now that question is hanging over him. Can he really do that? So really there's a lot of pressure on him to prove that he can.
Tremendous pressure on Friedrich Merz and his new government, and many people are wondering, you know, what kind of leader will he be? Right? He's just taken office less than 24 hours ago. He's never held a top position in government before. He's served in the EU Parliament decades ago, but never served in a top position in government. What kind of leader can we expect him to be?
Yeah, it's interesting. He's somebody who both has a long period of political experience, but actually it's rather thin political experience. Decades ago, he was in the European Parliament, then he had a long stint in the German Parliament too, but he was never a government minister. You know, he never really achieved serious kind of leadership rank. Then he went off and went into business. His pitch has been, and he really draws himself quite in contrast to his two predecessors. So Olaf Scholz, the outgoing Chancellor, and Angela Merkel, who of course governed Germany for 16 years, who was from Friedrich Merz's own political camp and who was quite a rival of Merz's. Both Merkel and Scholz, their kind of calling cards was caution and bringing people together, this sort of, this consensual form of running a government. The consensus eluded Scholz in the end, but they were both very cautious. By contrast, Merz's kind of calling cards, he's bold. He wants to kind of make decisions, plough ahead, do things. The question is, can he be bold and effective? Because, he's had, this just happening. He's had other setbacks that have started to make his boldness potentially look impulsive or not thought through. So this is another question hanging over him. Can he do it?
There are major foreign policy challenges, also challenges in the defense sphere that Friedrich Merz will be facing. He's today making his first foreign trips already, off to Paris, off to Warsaw, visiting France and Germany, France and Poland, Germany's biggest neighbors. Chancellor Scholz did not have great relations with these countries, it must be said. Is Friedrich Merz the man to mend relations with those countries and perhaps show leadership in Europe?
So this is what he's saying. This is his pitch. And there have certainly been very positive noises, both from France and from Poland, about Friedrich Merz. The signal that he's sending by going to France so quickly, I mean, this is something that German chancellors have traditionally done, but he's also sending a powerful signal by also visiting Warsaw on the same day, trying to show that it's not just France, this traditional ally of Germany, that's important within Europe, that Poland is equally important. And I think that's particularly a signal with a view to what's happening, you know, the Ukraine war, relations with Russia that have really hung over recent German governments, that they've mismanaged that. So certainly the French and the Poles are enthusiastic about that. We'll see today initial results.
Richard, thank you very much. Our Chief International Editor, Richard Walker. DW political correspondent Matthew Moore joins us now. So, Matthew, Germany has a new chancellor. Friedrich Merz was sworn in less than 24 hours ago, but he got off to a rather bumpy start, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, from what we hear, Friedrich Merz arrived in the Chancellery last night and he said, he was quoted as saying, "What a day." And I think that just about summed up what the drama yesterday, really historical drama that took place yesterday in Berlin. And it was a rough day for Friedrich Merz, and in part humiliating to begin with. The early part of the day, there was huge question marks about his ability to really to form a coalition and to get the people to back him. I mean, 18 members of his own coalition did not vote for him yesterday at the first time of asking. Second time of asking, they did. He managed to persuade them in the interim, and there will be a lot of hand-wringing and introspection about why that was and what the reasons for that was. But Friedrich Merz last night went before the cameras and has given interviews, and he said, look, this is just a minor blip, trying to put a brave face on it. He says that other countries would love to have a situation like in Germany where it just takes 2 votes and you have a new chancellor. He's really determined, though, that was the message yesterday, really determined to start a new chapter, to get to work, to deal with the issues that he's campaigned on in the election campaign, things like restoring growth to the economy, delivering Germany's leadership role in Europe again, and tackling with the issue of migration. So that was the message last night. It's the start of a new chapter.
Well, despite that stumble in Parliament yesterday, Friedrich Merz is now moving fast. He's travelling to France this morning and Poland in the afternoon. What are these visits about, Matthew?
Yeah, that's right. So he's going to have lunch with Emmanuel Macron, the French President. This is a traditional trip on the first day of a German Chancellor's new German Chancellery. So what this is about is really there's going to be a chance for the two men to discuss a number of issues, things like defence in Europe and trying to kind of become less dependent on the United States. Things like trade. Obviously, the Donald Trump, the US administration's tariff war is a hugely important issue for Europe, and so they'll be discussing that. And then in the afternoon, Friedrich Merz will travel to Warsaw and will speak with Donald Tusk. And really, this is a kind of an opportunity for the two men to also reset relationships between the two countries, try to discuss a big kind of topic between the two countries will be migration. Friedrich Merz has promised to reject asylum seekers at Germany's borders. That's hugely controversial with neighbours, including Poland, so they'll have a chance to talk about that. But fundamentally, Friedrich Merz has promised to restore Germany's relationships with its European neighbours, and these visits today will be the starting point for that.
Matthew, thank you very much. DW's Matthew Moore.